Aloha y'all, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a video that I had been intending to do for a fairly long time now, and I had never really sat down and kind of thought it through. This is the type of video that I typically would write notes for and have like points and stuff like that. And then I kind of had just like a really stressful day that I was like, you know, I just kind of need to just kind of say my piece and do my thing without trying to make it too structured, although there will be more structured videos in the vein of this to come. But for right now, this just initial one is going to be a little bit more raw, a little bit more just kind of as it comes. And obviously, if you're here, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. That is talking about what it is like for me personally, I can't speak for anyone else, living with a shopping addiction. Now, I am greatly inspired by Georgia Harris's. She had issues with a shopping addiction. She has made quite a few videos on it. I will leave her channel and those videos linked down below. Highly inspiring. She gives a lot of wonderful insight, a lot of real in-depth and real raw and relatable and personable content concerning the whole whatever around, you know, having a shopping addiction. Now, I want to preface this with saying that whenever I feel like shopping addiction is something that often gets kind of like, oh, I have a shopping addiction, I love going to the mall. And for a shopping addict, yes, going to the mall is like going to Valhalla. You know, that is like the peak of addiction. You know, that's like an alcoholic, you know, going to a bar or, you know, buying alcohol. You know, yes, that is what a shopping addict would strive for. And I feel to a certain degree it does get a little bit dumbed down because in our modern society, in our current state, consumerism is pushed to such a level, consumerism and marketing is pushed at us so much where shopping becomes a less of a, you know, oh, I need to go get, you know, food, or I need to go get some new clothes for school. You know, it becomes less out of necessity and more as simple as a pastime, as something to do, as a way to make ourselves feel good. And studies have shown that whenever, you know, not just shopping addicts like myself, but oftentimes people, you know, the purchasing aspect, the action of purchasing something releases a dopamine, releases those same chemicals that you get when, you know, taking drugs. And so you already have that psychological part of it where you get that high from, you know, shopping. And there's also the psychology of, you know, how a mall is formatted, you know, the lights, the music, you know, the way that retail spaces are created in such a way to make you feel good, to sort of foster and feed into those good, happy feelings that will inevitably get you to spend more because you're in the moment. Sort of a little background on myself. We're not going to go too deep. I don't know if y'all want to go down that rabbit hole. I myself, I suffer from depression. I am in fact bipolar, and bipolarism is actually kind of going hand in hand with obsessive and compulsive tendencies, as well as issues with addiction. There was a while there when I had issues with alcohol and all that jazz. We have since gone past that, but one of my main problems, probably for as long as I can remember, I had issues with acquiring things. It was something, no matter what I was into in my early teens, I was I still am into clothes. But, you know, then it was like, you know, the new band tees at Hot Topic, you know, the stuff. And then I was also a very big anime consumer. So new manga, anime, going to conventions, getting things like that. From a very early age, I was definitely someone who enjoyed the act of shopping and the act of acquiring new things. Then there was a phase in my life where I was very much into designer things. You know, I really suffered from the whole, if it was like a designer thing, it was good, it was worthy, it was valuable, when in reality I look at some designer things and I'm like, did they really send that down the runway? And so during that time, obviously, you know, I was buying, you know, Kate Spade handbags, you know, we had to have the Juicy Couture, we had to have the Michael Kors, we had to have the Chanel, you know, kind of that whole vein. Whereas now, I have a much more discerning eye with designers. I still love Vivienne Westwood, I still love Betsey Johnson, I love a lot of Yves Saint Laurent stuff, you know, but we're not as, you know, excessively just, we need all the designer things, all the, you know, it got to the point with my spending where I'd go into a place like, you know, Marshall's or whatever, and I would see something and I'd be like, well, it's Michael Kors, or well, it's Alice and Olivia, you know, and I had to have it regardless of the piece being, you know, anything that I was actually drawn towards. You know, in thrifting, you know, you'd go and you'd find designer, you'd be like, well, I have to buy it just because it's like a designer item for $5. The amount of turnaround in my closet was pretty phenomenal. But as I was saying, from a very early age, you know, I had obviously developed this sort of dopamine infused, you know, need to shop. You know, it was something that I love to do. Shopping, acquiring things. At my honest, absolute worst in my life, I couldn't go into a store, like it didn't matter what I could go into the friggin' Home Depot. And if I didn't come out with something, it would like, I would have a panic attack. Like I would lose it. And I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, because I feel like it's very easy for people to be like, oh, shopping addiction. You know, it's easy to say, I'm addicted to buying makeup. I'm addicted to buying clothes, to shoes, to designer goods, you know, for men or for whatever, you know, sneakers or caps or video games. You know, it's very easy to say you are addicted to one particular thing. And for most of us, there are certain things that we are more drawn to. You know, for me, it's, you know, clothes. I love shoes. I love, you know, makeup. You know, obviously, if y'all have been on my channel, you are very aware of that. But an important aspect of retail or shopping addiction, which I feel gets a little bit slid under the rug, kind of, it gets kind of pushed back because we do sort of, oh, well, you're just, you know, you're addicted to shopping. You know, people don't really, on the outside of it, people don't, I feel, comprehend the severity of it in its entirety. And oftentimes whenever you're, at least for me, one of my triggers, quote unquote, is being stressed. When I'm stressed, I buy something because it makes me feel better. It releases the dopamine into my brain. One thing that I used to say to my cousin is just like, oh, if you don't make your own dopamine, store-bought is fine. And when I was in Tennessee, she's my cousin that lives in Tennessee, a package would arrive and she'd be like, look, dopamine. Because that's literally how it works. But for me, like I said, one thing is stress. And I was walking in Walmart. Walmart isn't exactly the pinnacle of exciting, but it's the type of thing where you're walking through and you go through you're not even going through. You're just, recently I'm telling myself I need to be good. I was there for like 5 things. I'm gonna get 5 things and I'm gonna leave. And you start off with the natural pools. You think, oh, well, maybe I could go and stroll through, the makeup section. Maybe something new has come out. Maybe they're having a sale. Maybe there's something on sale. Maybe there's a coupon. So you have to resist your initial and your kind of your regular tendencies, things that you do typically go for and purchase. You've got to resist those because it's there, it's a thing. And then as you're going out and about, you're in the aisle and you're passing by the clothes, and y'all know I love plaid. And so you'll see a plaid shirt in like a color story that you like, and you're like, oh wow, that's a really pretty plaid shirt. I could style that in so many different ways. And you physically have to stop yourself and you have to think. You have to pause and break down and think, there's that plaid shirt that could cost you $15 now, when you have at least 5 plaid shirts at home. And what's important about this is back in the day, I did not have that rationale. I did not have that ability to stop myself and to say, you got plaid at home, you may not have that exact plaid, but do you really need that? No, I do not need that plaid. And so back then it would have been a case of, oh, look, there's that plaid, I'm going to buy it, whether I actually wear it or use it, or it ends up getting decluttered with the tag still attached. And so you're sort of going this thing, you have your motions with, with the things that you're typically drawn towards, clothes, makeup, and Walmart. Then you're in the checkout aisle. I've got my things. I've got, my onion and my carrots and my whatever to make my meal. And you see, my husband, he still smokes, right? And you see a pack of lighters and you're like, oh, does he need lighters? Should I get lighters? And you're thinking, and then, there's also like, you're like, oh, should I pick up a lip balm? Knowing that he's got at least 10 lighters at home, knowing I have 3 lip balms that I'm currently using. But in that moment, it becomes just this sort of, like, oh, well, maybe potentially we could use that or need that. And the same actually when you have a retail shopping addiction. It oftentimes, yes, whenever I say people are like, oh, shopping addiction, I love going to the mall. Yes, that is, the ultimate, the pinnacle. That is where we would love to be. That's where we would like to be. But that isn't the only place where the addiction occurs. That's like the ultimate place we would like to be and for the addiction to do its thing. But the addiction lives in everywhere you go. It happens not just you're like, oh yeah, these pretty shoes, this pretty whatever. It happens when you're going grocery shopping. You go to the grocery store for 5 things. And this is another thing we kind of take very lightly, where you're just like, my sister and I are always like, Target is a place where you don't go into it knowing what you need. Target tells you what you need. And then you come out of Target $300 poorer with a large amount of things that you don't need. And so for me, it's like I said, I'll go in for those 5 things and I'll be like, but now would be a good time to pick up butter. Should I get bagels? Should I get cereal? Oh, maybe we need this. Do I need to get treats for the cats? And then you start, you went in with the one objective, the 5 things, and then you become consumed with this buying, with this just like, it's it may be groceries. It doesn't seem as exciting or as thrilling as buying shoes or makeup or clothes, but it still releases that dopamine. It still creates that same experience as buying those other things because you're making a purchase. And this is honestly just sort of the tip of the iceberg of what it's like living with that sort of thing. Now, it has taken me years, and I still struggle with it today, but it has taken me years to develop at least a semblance of being able to get a handle on this, because there was a couple years, a few years of my life where my life was spent spending money. If I made money, I spent it. Like, it was just the way I didn't matter what I spent it on, what I bought, but money existed to buy things. Like, that is it. And I know several of y'all have have expressed concern for me. I believe it was, I can't remember which of my clothing haul, one of you were commenting and said, do you think maybe because you're going on a low buy with makeup that you're transferring it on to clothes instead? And definitely something that's very realistic that honestly I'll just let y'all know is I spend in excess in probably every aspect of my life. I spend in excess on nerdy things, on clothes, on shoes, on wigs, on purses, on makeup. Once again, like I said, my husband and I actually just recently had a discussion. I love the activity of shopping, of acquiring things, the action of going out and shopping and looking at things and being like, oh, that's cool, that's what I was looking for. When I was Christmas shopping, I was in my element. I was like, yes, I'm going down. They had the extra added dopamine of like shopping for people and being like, oh, they're gonna like that. It was this big giant, but he does not. I feel like even if he had lots and lots and lots of money, he wouldn't acquire nearly as much as I do because he doesn't like going out. Maybe he'd like go ham on Amazon. I don't know. But for me personally, the act of going out and physically buying things was just like, ooh, like I said, it's like a high. You're walking on cloud 9. Then another kind of harsh and less discussed problem with shopping, especially for someone with me who does have the bipolar, you know, you're shopping and you're getting a high and you're feeling cool and you're feeling jazzy and you're like, I'm gonna look so cute with this new makeup or this new top, or in the moment, that thing that you're purchasing is making you feel so good. And then the wave passes and you crash and you feel worse than you did before when you went to purchase the item. So it's a cycle. What happens? We feel bad, we purchase something, it makes us feel good, we crash, we purchase something else to fulfill and to relieve that depression. Like I said, I feel like I don't know if it's taboo, but when people talk about addiction, you know, we think alcohol, we think drugs, we think, you know, and if we think like, you know, shopping addiction or financial addiction, usually it's something, you know, this person is $50 million in debt. And we kind of just gloss over the perpetuating of addiction that today's consumerism and marketing it plays. You know, it really perpetuates it because we live in a very, you know, get happy quick society, you know, quick fix. You know, it's the same with food, you know, go to the fast food place, you know, just all these things to make life quicker and happy and to make us have that moment of just, I guess, respite from the whole cold, depressing world we live in. And as someone who has that addictive tendency, addictive personality, you know, it's something that you grasp onto, you know, no matter what it is. And it's the type of thing where, I mean, I'm okay, I'm all right. I don't need y'all to be worrying about me. You know, 2020 is going to be, I'm going to be documenting, it's going to be a low buy for my life. There is absolutely no reason for me to buy more makeup, for me to buy more clothes, for me to buy more shoes, for me to really add any kind of physical stuff into my life. There's absolutely no reason for me to do that. There's no room. We're full up. We're booked. But this has been something that I have been dealing with for quite some time, and it's something that I feel needs to be discussed more, like I said, on less of a oh well, you know, they're shopping, you know, addict, you know, there's the movie, you know, Shopaholic, you know, and things like that, where it's treated as kind of this, you know, like, oh, well, she's high maintenance and she likes to shop and all things like that, when there really is a much deeper, darker, underlying reasoning behind shopping. One of which being, at least for me, kind of what my family, my mother and father kind of gathered from me as I grew up from a preteen to a teen to a young adult to where I am now. My self-esteem, surprise, surprise, was not as fantastically awesome as it is now. My self-esteem was kind of not so good, kind of the lowest of the low. We were leveling on dirt there for a while. And I feel like when I started getting into makeup before my YouTube channel, kind of in that era is when acquiring things was how I derived my personal worth. It was kind of this thing where I'm like, well, I think I'm crap. I'm like, I have absolutely nothing to offer in any sort of way. So maybe people will like me if I have all the latest things. This was something that was like early on. I want to say like 14, 15. I had a friend, she and I are very close now, but back then she and I were very toxic to each other because we had the same issues and we were kind of trying to make ourselves feel better by kind of competing with each other. So she and I were kind of in that emo goth phase, and so I'd be like, well, I got a new whatever at Hot Topic, and then she'd be like, well, I got a new whatever at Hot Topic. We had a lot of the same interests, and so we kind of bounced off of each other, being all like, well, I have this thing from the thing that we like. I'm like, well, I have this thing from the thing. You know, there was that constant need to fulfill ourselves with things, and that's how we felt that we derived our worth from, and how we're like, well, I'm one step above you. And so that whole need to just have these things, and that kind of went into the whole, makeup thing. Because y'all know I talk about kind of back in the day was my need to have everything was drugstore high. If it was a new, really, I can't tell you. My mom could probably regale you of stories of having to go to every flippin' Walgreens, every CVS, every Walmart trying to find these new things. You know, L'Oreal would release a new lipstick line. I need all of them. Essie would release, you know, their nail polish. I need all of them. You know, it was this sense of, like I said, I derived my worth from the type of and the amount of possessions I had. And that whole addictiveness would go into everything, because before makeup, it was anime and manga. You know, it was kind of that whole area there. Then kind of before and then after that phase, it was designer clothes. You know, I had to have all, you know, the Michael Kors and the Ralph Lauren and the Diane von Furstenberg. You know, it was, you know, less about the item and more about the self-satisfaction of being like, well, I have these fancy designer things, so that gives me intrinsic value because I don't have any value in myself alone. I am nothing without these things. And then as I grew and developed and got into makeup, though I'm not sure what started that, probably my alternative whateverness, and I was just like, make the face, you know, whatever, yeah, Urban Decay electric palette, and everything after that was just, but then I transferred that whole need into makeup, like I said, and we had everything. If I had kept everything I had from my start of my makeup collection, it hurts. Like, it physically hurts to think of how much makeup. There's a video I want to do that is talking about makeup I wasted my money on. And that's not just like, oh, products I regret buying. What it is literally makeup that I bought and I never touched, that just rotated out of my collection because of this incessant need to purchase and have all the new things, whether I was going to use them or not. You know, decluttering is all fine and good and wonderful, but then if you're just like I said, I get these L'Oreal collections and it's like I got 10 lipsticks. I mean, when Urban Decay released their lip glosses, I bought at least 80% of those. Never used them, never even touch them, ended up selling them on some reseller site. And so kind of one of the main things I want to impress in this video is that, you know, it's so much more than purchasing makeup. And I want to delve more into this. I want to delve into like my reasoning. I want to delve into, you know, industry and consumerism and marketing, because you know, I have issues, but I'd like to think I'm not completely mostly to blame. But definitely the marketing and consumeristic situation that we live in absolutely does not help, because it shoves the narrative of constantly needing new things. And especially on YouTube, you know, I remember on YouTube, I was like, okay, to have a channel, you need to do hauls. You know, I was watching Zoella. I was watching back in the day, Trisha Paytas, you know, like years ago. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to do hauls. We need to do like, you know, I think one of my first videos was like a friggin' haul. I did a Hot Topic haul. I did like a makeup haul, you know, and hauls are all good and great and wonderful. But I mean, they're just kind of like, and especially when you're considering, I've been watching a lot of videos talking about the toxicity in the, not just beauty, but in the YouTube community, where it's become this expectation of unrealism, you know, where it's like, you know, you have to have all the fancy and the nice things, you know, in order to stay relevant. You need to buy more makeup, you need to buy more clothes, you need to buy more shoes, you know, you need to constantly be purchasing in order to maintain a level of clout, of relevance. And y'all know with 2020 and everything like that, I am going to be focusing on creating content that doesn't revolve around purchasing things. So there are some clothing hauls and some makeup hauls that I've filmed but haven't been, excuse me, burp squad, that haven't been posted yet. Going forward, I am, and this is where you have to like, where you really have to like understand the intensity of what addiction can do to you and shopping addiction can do to you, is, you know, like for example, you know, I'm walking through and I'm like, oh, that'd be a cute top. I have tubs. I have a closet bursting with clothes. I have tubs filled with clothes. When you become self-aware about the problem that you have perpetuated in your own life, it's good. it's healthy, but it's also, there have been times where my husband has come home and I've tried to, in a day, declutter and go through and completely organize everything I have. And I'm sitting on the bed bawling my eyes out because I have so much stuff. And I don't like saying this lightly because you all do see that I have some hauls and that I have some clothing hauls and things like that. And I know a lot of you, I thank you so much for your concern and everything like that. And I don't want to say this lightly and being like, oh, well, I have so many issues, but then I just go out and buy things. I admit that is part of the issue. And in 2020, I'm wanting to conquer my issue because, like I said, I still love spending money. I love buying things. There is nothing more that I love. It's a joke. I like the little pop figurines, and I'm like, there's nothing more I love than purchasing useless pieces of plastic. Because I'm just feeling and fueling into that and buying I'm not trying to be like, I'm going straight minimalism, I'm never buying anything again. But in all reality, I have absolutely no need to add any more clothes, any more shoes, any more wigs, any more makeup. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever for me to add any of that. I've beyond plenty. I can't remember which video it was in, but I was like, 2020 is going to be the year of you got it at home. And I'm going to tell myself, you see something while you're out and about, and it's like, but you have wigs at home. You have dresses and cute skirts and cute shoes. You literally have all these things at home. There is no more space. There is no more room. There's no more money. There isn't any reason besides your own self-inflicted insecurities and the consumeristic push that, yes, you need these things. And for someone, like I said, I hate to be all like, well, I have an addiction. I don't like using that as an excuse, but to explain to people who kind of have a lesser understanding, and for the fact that the idea of shopping as an addiction is trivialized in today's society, I want people to know that it's a problem. Not only is it a problem, it's hard. It is so hard because you develop this cycle of, being depressed and then purchasing something and then the low and then, and living in the, consumeristic, everything is buy, no matter what it is. And it's not just, like I said, it's not just, shopping in the cute little fairyland of the mall. It's wanting to be able to buy groceries. It's wanting to be able to go out and eat. It's wanting to be able to watch movies or do things. It's the addiction of shopping and purchasing things goes so far beyond just acquiring those things that we see, like I said in the beginning, you're addicted to shoes, you're addicted to makeup, we see all of those. And yes, there is a lot, like I said, we psych in, we zone into what we really like. But more often than not, there are even more underlying things besides that particular item. That's just what gets manifested the most. But there are other habits, like purchasing a coffee every day. And not saying people who purchase a coffee every day is whatever, But for people with an addiction, the act of spending, it's not so much, yes, there is what we spend our money on, because obviously there are specific things that we would like to spend our money on, but it goes beyond that. The act of spending money in and of itself is what we're addicted to. That dopamine, that serotonin, that rush, the sense of, purchasing something new and having it for that moment, feeling so good. And this is actually why buying things online is apparently twice as bad, because you get the rush when you purchase it and then you get the rush when it arrives. So it's like, I'm not even sure what I wanted to express with this. I just kind of wanted to, like I said, there are some more structured videos that I plan on doing about this because it's a real thing. And as I go through 2020 in my low buy, not just with makeup, but with life on a whole and just trying to save money for the first time in my life, I want to be able to have a place where I can kind of, vent and be on here and be like, dude, June was a really bad month. And I do want to open up the dialogue about addiction, not just traditional or whatever, but really this like, underlying and perpetuated, addiction that often does get brushed off as kind of like, well, that's not real. That's not really a problem people have. At my worst, I was looking for like a AA group for people like me. I'm like, I gotta, you have that desperation, what has, just in a brief whatever, we'll get into it in other videos, what has it's, at times, thank God I had the parents that I have, but, it's damaged my relationship with my parents at a certain point. My relationship with my husband, it lost me a very, very close friendship. And it's important to know that these things exist. It's important to know that if there are any of y'all out there that have this issue, that you are not alone, and to really, be willing to put yourself out there, because there are people who feel and go through the same things. And kind of in like today's consumeristic light, we kind of just like make light of it and kind of just, move on, because that's how society is, we buy things. So like I said, I'm not sure what I wanted to do with this. This is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg going in. Like I said, there will be more curated, more point-based, more researched, whatever videos. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this down below. This is not a like pity party. Oh, feel bad for me, I have a shopping addiction. This is just me trying to be real with you all and trying to sort of explain, sort of why I purchase, a lot of things, and going into 2020, hoping that I can figure a way to cull that spending, to tell myself, you have enough, you have plenty, and you are enough. We all battle with our self-esteem, but to get to the point where you say you don't need those things to feel good about yourself. So thank you to everyone who made it all the way through. I know that this is going to be a much longer video. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down below. If any of y'all have any need to talk, I'm here. I've got my Snapchat, I've got my Twitter, Instagram here. Comment amongst each other's, support and lift yourselves up, because there is a lot of stigma and there is a lot of shame to this sort of thing, because oftentimes while you're admitting I have a problem, you're still buying things, and oftentimes people will judge you very harshly for that, because they're like, well, you have an addiction, why are you still buying these things? You're just hypocritical and stupid, just stop. So there is that piece on that. There will be more videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah.